This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Sony Xperia Z3. Finally comes to the United States via T-Mobile. Thank goodness. Some of you overseas have had this for about a month, almost 2 months, and this is the replacement for the Xperia Surprise Z2. It gets a lot thinner. It gets a more organic, friendly curved design. Other improvements inside, we're going to look at it now. So here it is, the Sony Xperia Z3, obviously the latest generation, at least for now, of Sony Xperia smartphones. These are Android smartphones. And you know, the Xperia Z2 came out not that long ago, about 6-7 months ago, maybe 8 at this point. So this is a pretty quick revision, and some folks say, well, maybe not enough has changed. I think that it has, and it's a smart redesign by Sony. They're still going with their, what they call omni-balance look, which is kind of a modern angular look, but well, literally rounded now. Notice the sides here. They've become metal, aluminum. Curvy, comfortable, nicer to hold. That was one thing about the old Xperia phone. And here's the Sony Xperia Z3V, which uses the Z2 design. You can see how squared off the sides are here. Also a heavier phone and a thicker phone. So in contrast, this is much more comfortable to hold in the hand, feels organic, is thinner, is a bit lighter. So not as much of a in your pocket and in your hand. Good move there. The display continues to improve. The Z1 display kind of disappointed all of us. It didn't have the best viewing angles. And once again, this is called a Triluminos display. That's what Sony likes to call their display. Still full HD 1920 by 1080, but keeps getting even brighter. The Z2 had a much improved display on it that had better viewing angles on it. This one has very good viewing angles. Maybe not the widest I've ever seen, but certainly for practical use it's fine. And it's up to a maximum of 600 nits of brightness, so it's quite viewable outdoors, even though it is also very reflective. Now, Sony says they use Gorilla Glass on the front, and it could be Gorilla Glass or Dragon Tail Glass on the back, because this is still a glass-on-glass phone. Everybody has their distinctive design these days. Well, not everybody, but Samsung is kind of the faux leather look on the back with HTC. It's their aluminum unibody look. With Sony, it's their all-glass design. So front and back, both glass. Now in T-Mobile, sadly, you have your choice of black, black, or black. But overseas, you guys are lucky, and you get, I think it's a really cool coppery, kind of bronzy color. I like that one a lot. But anyway, you get your choice of black, white, reddish, and copper color. Overseas, US, again, T-Mobile, it's black. Still a nice looking phone. It does show some fingerprints because it's glass, but because it's glass, it's also really easy to clean. Right up here we have our Sony G lens. That's what Sony uses to describe their upscale lens line in their cameras, their actual standalone cameras, that is. And it's a 20.7 megapixel camera. Same megapixel camera, same hardware, all in all, that we've already covered in the Sony Xperia Z3 Compact and also the Z3V. And it's an excellent camera. We'll get into that. And we got an LED flash on the back there. And speaking of our Sony Xperia Z3 Compact, which is available via Sony's website as an unlocked phone now, you can see the difference. 4.6 inches for the compact model, 5.2 inches for the standard model right there. And the compact one, well, it keeps the plastic edges and the vinyl here. It looks kind of nice and stuff, and feels fine in the hand because it's a smaller phone, but difference in design language there. Otherwise, very similar internal. So if you're looking for something smaller, be sure to also watch our review of the Z3 Compact. Along with the curved sides, this is a waterproof and dust-resistant phone. That's typical for the Sony Xperia Z phone. So a meter submersion for up to 30 minutes, for example, and that works well. The doors got less fiddly too. The little rubber doors were just darned annoying because they seal up all the ports. So now we have much easier to operate little doors. They need to be there for the waterproofing, alas, but much easier to operate. So micro USB port right over there. Notice the magnetic charging connector. This doesn't have wireless charging, but if you want to spend about 30 bucks or so, you can get Sony's wireless charging dock right here, and it's a magnetic connector, and it just sits right in there. And there are smart actions associated with this. That's some software that they have. So once it's docked, it knows that it's docked, and it can go into like bedside clock mode, that sort of thing. So that's the little dock right there. Not included. Charge extra. Sorry. This side here, another door labeled for our convenience. So we have the micro SD card slot, and we have the SIM card slot there as well. And it takes a nano SIM. Volume control right here. Sony's usual round power button, nice metal feel to the controls, by the way, and a dedicated camera button. God, I love that. It's just so awesome. So you don't actually have to turn on the phone slider to wake it. You just pick it up, press the button right there, and then you can also use this as your shutter button, so you hold it kind of just like you would actually a camera, like that, and you press your button. You get the idea. The headphone jack, that has a sealant actually inside of the jack, so I know some of you always wonder how that works. It's supposedly how it works, and a waterproof coating that's covering that. But anyway, headphone jack right there. Nothing on the bottom. Front, we have actual stereo speakers here. A little slit here, a little slit here. Sounds pretty good from the phone, actually, too. Software on-screen buttons here, no capacitive buttons, no physical home buttons. 2.2 megapixel camera in the front right there. In terms of software, it's Sony's usual UI, which may be looking a little bit dated right there. We get our music player control widget. They have the photo widget right there. Some more photography-oriented widgets, since this has a pretty good camera on it. But it's Android 4.4 KitKat. It will get the upgrade to 5.0 Lollipop. And I still actually enjoy some of their customizations. Like you swipe this way and you've got this way of managing your app drawer, which is pretty expedient and pretty nice. Jump straight to the Google Play Store, for example, uninstall applications right here, change how they're listed. It's good stuff overall. So not overbearing, not TouchWiz, not LG UI. And here we got shortcuts to Walkman, album, movies, which of course we'll try to sell you on some of Sony's movie offerings, so you can use it to play your own locally stored movies as well. And PlayStation integration. So the Walkman application is actually a pretty nice music player application. I don't mind Sony software so much, let's put it that way. Here's the PlayStation app, so you can keep track of your profile, your trophies, your friends, all that sort of stuff. And we have PlayStation 4 integration, where you can use this as a second screen and gaming device with your PlayStation 4. For those of you who say 5.2 inches is way better than my big screen TV. And Sony does sell a gaming controller you can use in conjunction with this to make the experience obviously better than trying to use the touchscreen to play a PS4 game. Those of you who wonder how much this costs, from T-Mobile in the US, they don't do contracts anymore. There is no contract pricing, but it is $630. They have their monthly payment plan, so you can pay it off if you don't want to spend all the money up front. So as flagshipy smartphones go, not very expensive, actually. It's about a little bit less than average, say average being around $650. What's inside? Sony has updated the CPU. We still have the Snapdragon 801 on here, but this is the updated version that's clocked at 2.5 gigahertz quad-core CPU, Adreno 330 graphics, 3 gigs of RAM in here, and 32 gigs of storage. So it gains a gig of RAM over the compact version. Otherwise, they are very similar inside. As I mentioned, this is a glass phone. It's gorgeous to look at. You'd almost hate to use a case because it's so darn pretty, but it has a way of creeping and sliding on the desk. I just thought I'd mention that because it's like a lemming. It'll just keep sliding and sliding and head right off your desk. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about a case or no case. It's 0.28 inches thin. That's pretty thin, 5.36 ounces, so not that heavy really, especially compared to the previous generation Xperia Z phones. The display is 5.2 inches, as I mentioned, and it is IPS. It has the Triluminos display. Again, that's a Sony marketing term, but it has their X reality feature. I actually kind of like it. I know some people do, some people don't, but it increases colors and contrast when you're looking at photos and video. It doesn't mess with everything, just photos and video. It tries to make them look good. I think it does a pretty good balance. Colors on this look really zingy, and we'll show you some photos so you can see. It's not super AMOLED, but it is more natural looking at the same time. And you can change color balance on this too, which is pretty darn neat. So if you prefer a little warmer, a little colder, you can set that yourself. Inside, obviously sealed here. There is no way to get the battery out. 3100 milliamp battery. Sony has excellent power management. Even if you're not enabling their stamina mode or their super power saver modes, this thing just lasts and lasts and lasts. I mean, it's a pretty good sized battery in there too, so one would hope it's almost as big as the Samsung Galaxy Note 4, which has a 3200 milliamp battery, but I find it pretty hard to kill this in less than 2 days with moderate use. Now, if I'm going crazy playing a lot of games or something like that, or GPS navigation for an hour on the road, that's going to, shorten your battery charge lifetime, but it's good. Speaking of which, it also supports Qualcomm quick charging. No quick charger in the box, though. T-Mobile, we love you. Not just because you do Wi-Fi calling. We've got voice over LTE on this, speaking of new technologies, too. The Samsung Galaxy Note Edge on T-Mobile is not doing voice over LTE, but this one is. But we love you, T-Mobile, because you don't bloat up the phones as much as other carriers. We got Their mobile hotspot app, which is actually kind of useful on here, some account management stuff, T-Mobile TV, but other than that, not too much bloat. For Sony's other applications, we have File Commander, which is a file manager, FM radio application. By the way, this supports high-quality audio, high-res audio, and also digital noise canceling if you get the proper companion headset, which is the MDR-N31EM. Now, look out, antivirus and mobile security on here, Sony's little sketch application. Otherwise, full Google Play implementation on here. T-Mobile caller ID as well. Sony's Video Unlimited service, so if you're into that. Sony Xperia Lounge, it tells you about deals and what's going on with new Sony games and movies and stuff like that. It's a little bit spammy. You'll get notifications from it once in a while, which you can turn off if you want. But overall, pretty clean, not too messed up. We wish Verizon and AT&T and even Sprint would follow suit and kind of give us such a clean phone. Typically, Sony does a good job with voice quality on a phone, and voice quality on this phone is indeed very good. My God, over Wi-Fi rather, really very good sounding voice quality. Outgoing audio is very loud. Call recipients actually commented on how loud we sounded, and clear and full, which is good. Now, earpiece call volume I found to be a little on the low side relative to the average phone on the market today. Bluetooth headset volume is fine. Speakerphone is quite loud. Thankfully, it helps that we have two speakers on here. Data speeds, this is pretty representative of T-Mobile's network here, depending on which tower we're connecting to. Pretty good overall. This does support Cat 4 LTE, so you get good data speeds with the phone as well. Has dual band Wi-Fi 802.11ac, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, and there's a little NFC logo on the back. Sony always does that, so you know where the NFC contact point is. And the usual GPS with GLONASS, so it worked fine in our tests too. So with our help of the friend, the bath toy back there, we're going to look at the camera now, and it's pretty standard stuff right here. You've got your video button, you've got your camera button. You can do 4K video recording with this. It has a power saver, thank you very much. It will pop you on the camera if you don't take a picture too quickly. We've got our mode button right here. By default, it's in superior auto mode, which is Sony's auto mode that uses 8 megapixel. It does oversampling basically, and we're not going to complain about that. It oversamples the picture, not unlike what Nokia does with some of their Lumia phones, and then gives you a pretty high quality 8 megapixel picture. But you've got manual control right here. You've got sound photo. You've got multi-camera, AR fun if you want to do that sort of thing. You can even put stickers on your photos. I'm not too much into that. Some creative effects, background defocus, you know what that is. Try to mimic an SLR. Bokeh is blurry backgrounds right there. And quick access to settings right here. If we're in manual mode, we get even more settings. You have very good manual control over this. And honestly, I would say that this really is a photographer's camera. I think autofocus is actually pretty on spot. Some people have problems with that. You can tap to focus first. Shot times are very good, but overall the pictures look very natural. And let's look at something other than the bath toy, though there is the bath toy. Here's a picture. It has too much blue bias. I would say it was taken in the shade outdoors on a cool, nearly winter day. It's looking pretty good. The details are very nice on this, and it has a dimensionality that you don't see sometimes in even some better camera phones. They look quite processed and flat. And this picture, very harsh lighting here with deep shade onto the water, but we still have a lot of water ripples showing right here. Some overexposure in this corner. Any camera is going to do that though, but still maintaining a pretty good amount of detail. And a low light shot of the boss sitting in the office chair. Now actually he's looking pretty good. There's a surprising amount of detail still captured in the fur. I am surprised it whited out just a little bit. That's without the flash right there. And this one was taken with the flash, and honestly the flash is kind of overpowering. It did indeed white out some of the pillow behind him and his arm and his chest right here, so don't use the flash at close range. But overall, a very good camera. It's a very enjoyable camera. I like the manual controls on this. You can really capture some shots that look more like they were taken with the standalone camera. In terms of actual camera specs and geeky stuff, that's an Exmor RS sensor in the back camera there. It's updated from the Z2 line. Like I said, it does do 4K video recording. The G lens has a 25mm focal length, so it's pretty wide angle there. And max ISO is 12,800, which is indeed very high. So how does this do in low light? Well, you saw that cat was taken in a room with only one dim overhead light on, and it actually looked better without the flash. It does quite well in low light. The sensor size is 1/2.3. So that's a larger sensor size than you would ever see in your average camera phone right there, getting close to point-and-shoot territory for sure. It's about twice as large as the average camera phone sensor. And now we've got Sony's 4K Bravia TV test file here streaming off of a DLNA media service. So you can see the saturation of the colors and you can hear the speakers. It's not the loudest track in the world. It's fairly full sounding though, as video goes. So very pretty looking. Really nice for watching videos on this, and also really nice for playing games too. And given that it has the Snapdragon 801 quad core in here, you don't really have to worry about this not being up to the job of playing games. It is. And now we get to see some of the blue section too. So we see how the blues look. Also very lovely, very vibrant. I think if you get this phone, you're not going to say, gee, I miss Super AMOLED. It's really that nice looking. So with the Sony Xperia Z3, I think Sony's finally got it down. It took them a couple of attempts to really make a good, solid Android flagship that can compete with the HTC One M8, the Samsung Galaxy S5, the Moto X 2014 edition. Now, how do you choose between all those? It's really, it's about the software treatment for those of you who like heavy treatments like TouchWiz or you don't like it. What design you like. If you like the glass look and feel of this phone, if you like the really lovely display and you want color saturation without Super AMOLED, for example, if you want pretty good media players, the Sony customization is very good here, the PlayStation integration, and I would say the camera also a very good selling point for the phone. So that's what this has going versus the other flagships on the market. These days it's not an easy choice. There are a lot of really nice phones on the market, but Sony is competing well. That's the Sony Xperia Z3, and it's available in most countries around the world, as most of you know at this point, available via T-Mobile in the US. Maybe Sony will sell it via their website eventually too, in an unlocked version, don't know yet. Anyway, very nice, classy design, thin, nice, easy to hold at this point. A very good camera here, more of a photographer's camera. Twiddling with the settings will get you somewhere with this camera, and you can get some very natural looking shots. Beautiful full HD display. It's a very likable phone. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to hit that like button.